In this video, I'm gonna tell my story on how I got through a tough childhood, street fights, crime and hate, nightmares, and so on with the help from God. I'm David Astorga, a old school breakdancer and former gang fighter, formed by a terrible childhood. Today I'm totally changed and I've left the fighting behind. And the wounds from my childhood are healed and the hate is gone. I was born in Chile in November 1970. My family lived a good life in the beautiful country. But everything changed one day. On September 11, 1973, a military coup took place and the country turned into a dictatorship. My father was put into prison several times and tortured because of opposition against the regime. I remember armed men that came to our home and took my dad. Here's a translated quote from my dad. It was 1:30 in the morning when they came, 3 policemen, to my home while we were sleeping. They searched my entire house from the upper floor to the lower floor and then carried me away. In 1976, when they released him, we managed to escape the country and fled to Sweden. We landed in Sweden when it was snowing and cold on March 1976. The memories of the first years in Sweden in a small town called Enköping were good, except my dad arguing with my mom and I think beating her also when we were supposed to sleep. I remember that I could hear her crying on late nights a few times and it really hurt my heart. On summer 1978, we moved to a city called Gothenburg and a place called Hjällbo. The first months were exciting. My lovely mom took me to the new school and I met some kids that I became very good friends with. Life was great, but what I did not realize was that my mom was seriously ill of cancer. And in the spring of 1979, my wonderful mom passed away and my heart was broken into pieces. The whole family, consisted of 7 older siblings, took it very hard and my whole world collapsed and I felt so abandoned. But it did not take many months before my dad had found another woman. And just before Christmas, this new mom was living with us. I hated it, but thought I would get used to it. But I was so wrong. Sure after her arrival, my new mom comes to me and says that she has a teddy for me. The condition from her to give me it was that I would kiss her on the cheek. I replied as a child, I only kiss my mom, so I did not receive the teddy. That event changed this whole woman's attitude towards me, from being very kind to transform to a witch, refusing me food and hiding it, depending on her mood and telling my dad to beat me. Often he used his belt and also kicked me and hit me with his fist. During this time, something in me began to rise against oppression. My stepmother intensified the malice towards me and my father beat me more often. I decided that I would endure this for something better. I began to dream and think about the purpose of life. And my search was really honest, but it took many years to find the right path. I was 14 when my dad separated from my stepmother, and 5 years of suffering were finally over. After a while, my father found a new woman, and my father told us that we wanted to move with her. Then I talked with the social services so that we could live for ourselves while they would come and visit us once in a while. After my dad left us, one of the first things I wanted to do was to party and have fun, and I surely did. My life became a remaining party. But before this, a few years earlier, at age 12, we had started a breakdance group as one of the first groups in Sweden. And 1 year later, we were performing in discos and participated in several breakdance competitions. But after a while, when it became less popular with breakdance, I got involved in parties in bad environments. But life was not only party. I met a lot of aggressive teenagers that loved fights, and the only way to survive was to be more aggressive. During the coming years of my teenage life, I got a reputation of being aggressive, and I ended up in lots of fighting. But there were some occasions when I really feared for my life, and I was nearly beaten to death by other gangs. On one occasion, some guys began to hit me so badly, I thought I would make it. In the midst of this, I began to think of how miserable my life was, and how sad it was that I had to end my life like this. The last thing I thought was something about God, and if He could help me. And suddenly the bad guys released me in a very strange way, without resistance, that until this day is hard for me to describe in words. Since I was broke and with many problems, I began to steal and sometimes commit robbery and vandalize. This life continued for a while, until I began to question my life due to some guys that I knew died because of being involved with serious crimes. Very often I had nightmares where demons and terrible creatures came and tormented me. People I knew that had died because of drugs and other crimes came and visited me in my dreams and were transformed to terrible demons that wanted to draw me to hell while laughing at me. My older sister saw my misery and need, and she talked about Jesus Christ and that He's real and lives today, and how He could change my life and deliver me from the destructive life. I said to her, if your God can help me with my many problems and do miracles, then I will believe. She encouraged me to read the Bible and the New Testament. In the beginning, I was reluctant due to previous encounters with strange so-called Christians, but thought later on that I could give it a try. I felt ridiculous when I started to read the Bible and the New Testament, but discovered very soon that it was a very interesting book and I got a wow experience. I was amazed by the goodness Jesus showed to people and the miracles He performed all the time, like healing the sick and raising up the dead. I found out that Jesus Christ was a real person that could help people even today. The Bible was not a fairy tale, but real stories. Several weeks later, my sister took me to a small church where my entire life was completely changed. I said to Jesus, if you're real, then come and help me and change my miserable life. I said to the pastor in the church that I wanted to believe and if he could help me to pray. I kneel and pray without really realizing what this would mean to me. And that incident completely changed my life in about 1 hour. In that moment, I felt a power and I cried and told Jesus to forgive all the bad things I've done in life. I heard a voice whispering, "I forgive you." I also forgave my dad and all the pain and abuse he had caused me in my childhood. All the hate against him went away. 3 more things I heard a voice whispering. You will not be involved in street fighting again. You will not get drunk with alcohol anymore. And you will quit messing around with girls. In addition to this, I quitted smoking, cursing and stealing without anyone telling me to do that. I understood that I needed to change my entire life and be completely different. I couldn't live like before. Jesus was real. Soon after this, I began to study again to raise my school grades. And to my surprise, I began to get very good grades, and several years later, I took my master's degree from university. The former street fighter had become civilized and academic. Today I have a completely new life, far away from fights, crimes, anxiety, nightmares and wild parties. Things that were destroying me. Anxiety and nightmares with demons are gone for a long time ago. Many great things and miracles have occurred and are still occurring since Jesus changed my life that day. But that may be for another video. My intention with the story is to give people hope, regardless of a bad background as a child, and despite having everything against them. If I can make it through, I know you also can make it through. If my story has inspired you and helped you, hit the subscribe button below and help me to spread this video and take this message further. Remember, Jesus is real.